Your screen is glowing red, your bank account is a graveyard, and the rent was due last week. A message hits your encrypted chat, $5,000 to delete one folder. No questions asked. You click accept. You just became a deep web asset cleaner. You're 19, invisible, and working out of a bedroom that smells like stale coffee. You are not a hacker. You're a janitor for the digital underworld. Your job is simple. Scrub the metadata. You remove the GPS tags, the timestamps, and the fingerprints from photos that should never have been taken. You make $200 a day in Bitcoin, more than your teachers make in a week. You tell yourself it's victimless. You tell yourself it's just data. You're just good with your hands. But it didn't start as a career. It started as a Tuesday. You were 3 weeks behind on rent, your mother's electricity had been cut, and your little brother needed new shoes for school. You weren't looking for crime. Crime found your inbox. The first job took 11 minutes. Delete a folder. Wipe the metadata. Send confirmation. $200 hits your wallet before midnight. You stare at the number for a long time. You've never earned $200 that fast in your life. The second job comes the next morning. Then a third. Then a fourth by Friday. You don't ask what's in the folders. You tell yourself it's corporate espionage. Rival companies stealing each other's secrets. Nothing that touches real people. You're getting faster. What took 11 minutes now takes 4. You develop a system, a sequence of tools, scripts, and verification checks that strip a file down to nothing. No trace, no origin, no history. Just clean data in a dirty world. The forum where you work calls you Ghost Scrubber. You have a 5-star rating. Clients request you by name. You don't have a name. You have a username, a Bitcoin address, and a reputation built on silence. For now, the money keeps coming. And your little brother has the shoes he wanted. That's enough. For now, that's enough. The jobs get heavier. Now you're moving physical assets. A friend of a friend hands you a hard shell suitcase. Inside are 3 cold storage wallets wrapped in carbon paper and sealed in PVC tubes to bypass the scanners. You fly from Guadalajara to Zurich. Every glance from a flight attendant feels like suspicion. Your heart is hammering so hard you can hear it in your ears. You clear customs, hand the suitcase to a man who doesn't smile, and get an envelope with $8,000 cash. You're a criminal now. Not in theory, but in reality. You told yourself the scrubbing was victimless. You told yourself it was just data. But data doesn't weigh anything. This suitcase does. This suitcase has weight. You feel it in your shoulder all the way across the Atlantic. The second run goes smoother. Sao Paulo to Amsterdam, different suitcase, same carbon paper, same PVC tubes, same stone-faced man on the receiving end. By the third run, you know what the weight means. You stop asking. You stop thinking. You focus on the protocol. You develop rituals for the airport. You always arrive 2 hours early. You always wear gray, nothing memorable. You always take the same deep breath before the X-ray belt. You count to 4. You breathe out. You walk through. You don't look back. 6 countries in 8 months. Your passport is filling up with stamps from cities you never actually visited. You saw the airports, the taxis, the hotel ceilings at 2 a.m. That's all. You're making $8,000 a run now. You're doing 2 runs a month. The math is obscene. You try not to do the math. You do the math constantly. One night in a Dubai hotel room, you open the minibar and drink everything in it. Not because you're celebrating, because your hands won't stop shaking and you have a run in the morning and you need them to stop. They stop. You sleep, you run, you deliver, you collect. You fly home. The cycle has a rhythm now. The rhythm is the most frightening part. You're 24 and you've developed a system. You keep a second phone and a packed bag. You've learned to split yourself in 2. The part that eats dinner with your mother and the part that watches a folder of targeted assassinations disappear forever. You don't look at the faces in the files anymore. You focus on the anatomy of the code. You learn to be in the room without really being in the room. You're so good that the dragon head of the operation notices. You aren't just deleting files, you're erasing the past. There are 2 of you now. There's the version that shows up to Sunday dinner and compliments the food and asks your little brother about school. And then there's the version that sits in the dark at 2 a.m. doing things that would end that Sunday dinner forever if anyone at the table knew. You've gotten very good at keeping those two people from meeting. The work has changed. You're not scrubbing corporate folders anymore. The files that come through now have different weights. Some of them have names in them. You learn not to read the names. You focus on the structure of the data, the timestamps, the metadata chains, the digital fingerprints. You focus on the architecture. You erase the architecture. You don't think about what the architecture was holding up. Your reputation on the forum has evolved. You're not Ghost Scrubber anymore. You're simply the Ghost. The name wasn't given to you. It accumulated. Clients started using it in reviews. The Ghost cleaned it in under an hour. Total silence. It spread. Now it's the only name that matters. The Dragonhead has noticed. You don't know who Dragonhead is. You know they're at the top of something large and old and patient. You know because their jobs pay 3 times what anyone else pays and arrive with 3 times the security protocols. You know because when Dragonhead sends a message, the forum goes quiet for a moment, the way a room goes quiet when the most dangerous person in it speaks. The message is simple. You're exactly who we need. You read it 4 times. You don't reply immediately. You make yourself wait. And then, in the early hours of a Tuesday morning with the city asleep outside your window and 2 versions of yourself sitting in the dark, you type 2 words. I'm listening. You don't touch hard drives anymore. You touch spreadsheets. You turn dirty crypto into legitimate wealth. You run the money through shell companies in Panama, car washes, and luxury real estate. You build a structure so complex that investigators would need warrants in 6 countries just to follow one transaction. You wear tailored suits and eat at expensive restaurants. But you trust no one, especially not your own team. You know that being valuable today means being liable tomorrow. The architecture of money laundering is, at its core, an engineering problem. You've always been good at engineering problems. You understand systems. You understand how information flows, where it slows, where it accelerates, where it disappears. Money is just another form of information. Your first structure was elegant but simple. 3 shell companies in Panama feeding into a real estate holding in Dubai. Clean on the surface, untraceable if you didn't look too hard. Dragonhead looked hard. Dragonhead said, build it deeper. So you built it deeper, you added layers. A car wash in Miami, a restaurant group in Singapore, a logistics company in Rotterdam that moved nothing but paperwork, a private equity fund registered in the Cayman Islands that existed only in 3 PDFs, and a law firm's billing system. You studied every major money laundering case in history, not to understand how they got caught, to understand what mistakes they made that you wouldn't. You built redundancy into the structure. If one layer collapsed, the others would hold. If one country changed its disclosure laws, the money had already moved. The team you built knows only their piece. The Panama lawyer doesn't know the Dubai broker. The Dubai broker doesn't know the Singapore restaurant group. Only you can see the whole map. That's by design. That's the only thing keeping you alive. You wear a different suit every day now. Not for vanity, for visibility control. Different restaurants, different routes, different habits. Nothing is routine. Routine is a target. Standing at the window of a 43rd floor suite, looking out at the city, you understand something for the first time. You are not just cleaning money. You are building infrastructure. Infrastructure that the most powerful people in the world depend on. That dependence is the most dangerous thing you've ever held, and you've never felt more untouchable. You're an international operator. You sit in rooms with officials who officially want you dead, but unofficially need your skills. You scrub the digital blood off national elections and erase the offshore tax architecture for the 0.01%. You have 3 passports and accounts in banks that don't share information. You're a ghost with a $10 million bounty on your head. You live in a compound with 20-foot walls, but you haven't seen daylight without armed guards in years. The men across the table from you have flags on their lapels, and families in the newspapers. They give speeches about rule of law. They give you a list of files to erase. You erase them. You are never mentioned in the minutes of the meeting. You were never in the room. You never existed in any version of the official story. This is the work now. Not metadata, not suitcases, not shell companies. You are operating at the level where the architecture of power itself is maintained. Elections, tax structures, offshore accounts for the kind of wealth that doesn't appear on any list but controls every list. You have 3 names. You answer to all of them with equal discomfort. None of them feel like yours anymore. The name your mother gave you is the most dangerous one. The one that connects you to a person who existed before all of this. And that person is a liability. The bounty on your head is $10 million from one country, $7 million from another, and something unspecified but understood from a third. You know because your security team tracks it. They report it to you like a weather forecast. Today's bounty, clear skies, slightly elevated. You have property in 4 countries without extradition. You rotate between them on a schedule that only 2 people know, and one of those people is you. The compound here has 20-foot walls and a staff of 30. You haven't walked to a shop, taken a public taxi, or sat in a restaurant without a security sweep in 3 years. Your mother called last week. The phone is monitored. You watch the notification appear and disappear. You couldn't call back. You couldn't explain. You couldn't be her son and be this. There's only one of you left, and this is who it is. You're at the top, but you're a prisoner of the life you chose. You've realized that hope is poison. Every empire ends the same way. You saved your family with blood money, but your sister doesn't talk to you, and your mother thinks you're a delivery guy. You're untouchable until you're not. The paranoia eats you alive. You execute your own right-hand man just because he looked at you the wrong way. The compound is beautiful. Marble floors, infinity pool, a kitchen staffed by 3 chefs, a library you haven't opened, a gym you stopped using. Everything you could want, except the things that can't be bought with the kind of money you have. Your little brother graduated? You weren't there. You watched a 10-second clip that a contact filmed from across the street. You watched it 12 times. In the clip, he looks happy. He looks clean. He doesn't know what paid for that happiness. That's the only gift you have left to give him, not knowing. The right-hand man you trusted, the one who built the secondary financial layer, who knew 3 of your 12 identities, who had eaten at your table for 4 years, you had him removed last month. Not because he betrayed you, because he looked at you a beat too long during a meeting and you couldn't determine what the look meant. In this life, unresolvable ambiguity is a threat. You resolved it. You haven't left the compound in 11 days. The reason given to your team was security recalibration. The real reason is you can't make yourself move. Something is locked. Something that used to calculate risk and execute decisions with precision has slowed. Has started looping. You sit at the dining table at 9 p.m., and the table is 40 feet long, and there is 1 plate, and the chefs are in the kitchen waiting for you to finish, and you sit there, and the silence has texture. You are 43 years old. You have 9 figures in accounts across 11 countries. Your sister hasn't spoken to you in 6 years. Your mother thinks you're in logistics. Your father is dead. You paid for the hospital. You paid for everything. You were not there. The cage is gold, the bars are gold, the lock is gold. It is still a cage. Operation Iron Fist begins at dawn. They don't knock. 50 officers surround your home and cuff you in front of news cameras. The trial is a formality. The machine just needs to clear the backlog. You're convicted on 47 counts. The judge sentences you to life. You're sent to a cell 6 by 9 feet. A bed bolted to the wall, and a sink that barely works. You're 50 years old, and you've been dead since the day you said yes. You hear them before you see them. The sirens are different this time. Not fading, not passing. Converging. You've been trained to hear the difference. You stand in the center of your bedroom, and you do not reach for a phone. And you do not run and you do not call for your security team. You already know. Something in the last 11 days of paralysis was not paranoia, it was recognition. Some part of you knew this was the shape of the ending. They come through the gate, through the door, through the hallway. They come with lights and weapons and a document with your name on it. One of your real names. The first one, the one your mother gave you. The one you haven't heard spoken aloud in 20 years. An officer reads it. You listen to it. It sounds like someone else. The trial lasts 4 months. It could have lasted 4 days. There is enough evidence to convict you 47 times. They convict you 47 times. Your lawyers are the best available, and they achieve exactly nothing except running the clock. The judge reads the sentence. Life. You nod once, a habit of control that has no use here but activates anyway. The cell is 6 by 9 feet. A bed bolted to the wall. A sink with intermittent pressure. A window too high to see out of. You are 50 years old. You have been dead in every way that matters since the Tuesday night you clicked accept. As the door slams, the sound echoes. Final. You sit on the bed and realize the ladder you climbed was always resting on corpses. You spent 20 years erasing the past for others, but you can't erase your own. In the silence of the cell, something strange happens. You start to remember. Not the compound, not the suits, not the spreadsheets. You remember the bedroom, the stale coffee, the 200 arriving at midnight on a Tuesday when the rent was overdue and your little brother needed shoes. You remember the specific quality of the relief that came with that $200. How it felt like a solution. How it felt like a door opening. It was a door. You just couldn't see what was on the other side of it. You think about your mother in the kitchen. You think about your brother at graduation. 10 seconds of footage watched 12 times from a compound in a country your mother doesn't know exists. You think about the father you paid to save, whose last years you bought with money you cannot name in this courtroom or any other. You think about the right-hand man you removed for looking at you wrong. You think about his family. You stop thinking about his family. The cell is 6 by 9 feet. You have walked every inch of it. You know which corner gets cold first. You know the exact pitch of the door's hinges. You know the schedule of every guard by the sound of their footsteps. Old habits. You look out through the bars, not a window, just the corridor. And you see a kid, 14, maybe 15, new intake. He's standing against the wall waiting for processing, and he's staring at his phone with the specific expression of someone calculating something. Measuring something, looking for the door that opens. You recognize the expression. You wore it on a Tuesday when you were 19. The cycle never ends. You thought you were cleaning the assets. You thought you were the one with the skills, the system, the architecture. But the architecture was always designed to end here. You were not the builder. You were the material. You were just the mess they needed to get rid of.